Hi, hello, hey. In this video, I'm going to be coloring the sketch I did in my last video. So I did this painting, but I wasn't really happy with it, so I thought I'd try again and I'd make it better. So I'm doing it on crazy big sheet of paper, and I also decided the color scheme was kind of boring, so I'm going to be doing this color scheme instead. Some of the paints though, like the colors of the paints are a little bit different than the colored pencils that I used. I also changed my mind on the roses. I think I'm going to make them pink instead of red. So I did this with a couple watercolors that I have. So I'm going to make them this color. Even though I do really like the red, I think it'll look better. I've also decided today I want to use some masking fluid, but I haven't used this in so long. I have no idea if there's still masking fluid in here or if it's like dried out. Yeah, it looks like it might be dried out. Oh, hey, it's not completely dried out. Let's see if I can get this to work. Hi, voiceover me here. So I decided I'm gonna talk about like the art supplies I'm using and stuff, and then once like the time lapse gets going, I want to talk about my art goals for the year. So first step for preparing this painting is I erased it with the kneaded eraser, so it didn't erase like the lines like fully, but just like a little bit. I honestly erased them a little bit too much, but we'll get to that later. And now I'm using the masking fluid, and the masking fluid surprisingly was not dried out at all and worked honestly like a little bit too well. I kept having like way too much come out, and then it like took forever to dry. And I ended up creating a little mess with the masking fluid, but I'll talk about that in a second after I tell you about the paints that I'm going to be using. So this is like my little like Daniel Smith and like Turner watercolor palette. And I was planning to use the colors in here and then a couple other colors, but the only color I ended up using in here was the purple, so I didn't really need this whole thing, but I thought I was going to use more colors in there than I ended up using. And now I'm going to be picking out the colors, the main colors for this painting. So I was looking through and seeing which colors matched my like little practice color sketch the best, and I ended up using just like some colors that I wanted to use, and also a lot of like new paints, because fun fact, I got some new watercolors for Christmas, so I really wanted to try them out. And I have a YouTube short of me swatching the new paints for the first time if you want to see that. But yeah, so I don't remember the name of all these colors, but the first one is Potter's Pink. The second one, I don't remember. And the third one is Wisteria, which is like this pretty pastel purple. And then that one is Rose of Ultramarine, I think, and that's one of the new ones. And it is a really pretty purple. And that is Lunar Blue, which is like my favorite blue paint. And then this one is Rare Green Earth, I think. And this is another new one. And then this one, I don't remember what that one's called. Also, fun fact, this plate I'm using as a mixing palette is just like a pretty plate I got from the antique store. I went on a hunt. I don't remember when I got this, like a couple years ago, but I had an idea to get like a pretty like old plate from like the antique store to use as a mixing palette. And I saw this one and I was like, yes. I remember I was looking for a while before I found this one. So, fun fact, if you need a mixing palette, you can always just use a plate. And you can always go to the antique store and look for a pretty plate if you want to. And now I'm just swatching colors to make sure it looks good. And also for the video so you guys can see the colors. The ones, besides like the new ones I just got, the rest of them are colors that I use a lot, so I do like already know what they look like. But you know, it's nice to have like a nice little color palette thing. And then after I swatch them all, I'm comparing like the paints to like the colored pencil version just to see if they kind of add up. I ended up using a different purple than I was going to use, so the colors ended up looking a little bit different, which kind of didn't work out. But I guess I'll talk about that when I like get there in the painting. But yeah, the rest of the colors I kind of like was going to use already, but I used like a different purple because that purple paint that I got is called Rose of Ultramarine, and it's a really pretty like more like red purple, but I was going to use a more like blue purple. So that kind of like changed things up a little bit, but I think it worked out. I also wasn't gonna put any like browns on the palette, but like I said, I wanted to use my new paint colors. I got 4 new paint colors and I used 3 of them. The only one I didn't use is I didn't use this really bright green color because I wanted to use this green. Also, look at that. Messing up first thing, I got stinking green, dark green paint all over the arm. And that was actually really sad because I couldn't get it to lift. So I think it ended up like slowly disappearing and then I may have painted like white gouache over it, but you can't really see that mess up in the end, but that was a pretty bad one. Also, fun fact about these paint colors is I thought the colors I picked for the dress, the blue and the green, I thought they were more of like an almost black color, both of them. But they're actually like not that dark. Like you can get them to be darker, but they weren't as dark as I thought they'd be. So, yeah, fun fact. I think it turned out good, but in my head, the dress was going to be like almost black, just like a slightly tinted blue-green. I still think it looks good though. I think if the colors were more like bright, it wouldn't look as good, but since they're more like muted, I think the blue and the green look good together. And this is when I remembered I forgot to like add a section of the dress, so I quickly sketched that in and then painted over it. But yeah, I can't believe I forgot about the second bow. That was like my favorite part about the reference photo dress, because I copied this from like a old reference photo. Watch the sketching video if you're curious. But anyway, my favorite part was the second bow, and then I forgot to add it, and I just noticed it when I was painting. When I was doing the skin tone, I used like the light purple a bunch to shade the skin, and I thought the color looked so pretty, but I ended up, I think, layering the skin tone a little bit too much, and I kind of like lost like this, like it had like this pretty like glowy kind of looking thing, and I feel like I messed it up. So I am a little bit sad about that. And I actually was so sad, I was ready to like start this painting over a third time. I was like, you know what, I'll do it again. So the same time I've done this painting, I'll do it a third time because I messed up the skin tone. But yeah, I think after I stopped looking at it and I came back a couple days later, it looked okay. I do think I want to practice like trying to paint that skin tone again because it looked really good with like the purple. And then I think I made like the shading like too dark or something. Which is like one thing about watercolors, when you only do like a layer or two, the paints kind of like look very like light and glowy. I think a lot of watercolors, like a lot of watercolor painters use the word like luminous or something. And I think that's like the right word to describe it. But when I usually do watercolor paintings, I do like lots of layers to get the colors to be like brighter and more like pigmented. But I think I do want to work on trying to do like less layers so they still have that like light, luminous, flowy thing to them. I think that is one of the things I want to work on this year. Because the skin tone was literally looking like it was glowing, and then I added too much shading, and I'm kind of sad. Okay, now that we're in time-lapse mode, I need to tell you about this masking fluid. Because I've got a story about this stinking masking fluid. So when I was using it at first, I thought it was dried out, and then it like wasn't dried out, and I was like, whoa, I'm so impressed. And it was actually like pretty easy to apply, and I was like, why do I not use this masking fluid more? Like, this looks so good. And I was really happy with it. And then I set it to dry, and I was working on something else, and then like 2 hours later, I'm thinking it's probably like almost dry, and I see this little speck of dust on the painting, and I wasn't thinking, it was like the middle of the night, it had been sitting there for a couple hours, right? So I swipe off the speck of dust that's in the middle of this painting, right? And I smeared masking fluid all over the entire painting because it wasn't dry yet. And, you know, I wasn't planning to smear masking fluid everywhere, so obviously I didn't film this because I wasn't planning to do that. But I smeared masking fluid everywhere. It was bad. It was like all over the face, all over the whole painting. And I was like grabbing it, trying to get the masking fluid off, right? And at first I tried to like take it off with like a tissue, you know, like lift the wet masking fluid off. And she has like some masking fluid that's on like the petals towards the bottom of the painting. And I forgot that was there. And so I'm holding the painting in my arms, and my torso is like touching the end of the painting, right? Like the bottom of it. And I like slowly realize, I'm like, wait, isn't there wet masking fluid on the bottom of the painting too? While I'm trying to work on like the smear at the top that I messed up. And I look down and I realize not only is my shirt touching the wet masking fluid at the bottom of the painting that I forgot was there, my hair is all in it. So that was fun. And after that, I set it down, and I realized that after I wait for the masking fluid to dry, I can just peel off like where I smeared it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just do that. It'll be fine, right? So I ended up doing that, and I fixed the smears, which was good. I think though, I didn't realize this at the time, but after I started painting, I did think there was like some weird sections where the paint wouldn't go down, so I think there was still a little bit of like smeared masking fluid in different spots. But yeah, so there was that. And then also, like I mentioned, oh, I had some tea. That was nice. But like I mentioned with the masking fluid, I got it in my hair. So after I fixed all the smears that I ended up smearing like 2 different times, because that part right there, the petals ended up getting all smeared too. So after I fixed all the smears, I also had to get the masking fluid out of my hair. And fun fact, liquid latex is very hard to get out of hair. I ended up brushing my hair for like 30 minutes and had to go through like each individual strand that I got masking fluid in, which wasn't so bad, but like, I'd rather have not sat there that long doing that. But yeah, anyway, that was my fun, clumsy moment while working on this painting. Also, like, the masking fluid took forever to like get off the painting. Like, it was like sticking to the paper like too well, which you'll see in the video when I get to that. I haven't got there yet, but yeah. Moral of the story, I think I realized why I don't use masking fluid very often. I don't think I want to use it again after this. So before I get to my art goals, I just want to tell you like one last thing about this painting. So the hair color, I was planning to use a blue purple originally. I thought it would look good with like the rest of the colors, right? And I have this one purple paint that I use all the time, right? So I was going to use a specific watercolor purple. And then for Christmas, I got this new purple. And I was like, oh, let me use my new purple. And the new purple is really pretty. It's the color I used for the hair. It's more of like a red purple than I was planning to use. And it looked really pretty, but I didn't think it matched like the color of the dress. Like I thought it looked like too pink. Even though I thought it looked cool, I just thought like it didn't work with the blue or something. So I ended up using the purple I was going to use to shade it, to make it kind of like an in-between color. And at first it looked really bad, but after I did a couple layers, I think I got it to be a good in-between where I like it. Also with the hair, and that's the purple I'm going to use for it, but I think I forgot to mention this while it was happening, but when I first started shading the hair, since I erased my sketch lines too much, I like couldn't see the lines on the hair very well since like the sketch lines were too light. So I ended up like stopping recording so I could look at like a photo on my phone of the sketch. So, life hack for painting, always take a photo of your sketch before you start painting so you can like look at where the lines were in case you paint over them. I do that a lot actually. But yeah, so I had to look at the photo of the sketch to try to find the lines of the hair. And I think I like didn't get all the lines like exactly where they were in the sketch on like the hair, but I think it ended up looking okay. And here's where we say goodbye to the pinky purple color, and I made it fully purple. I am really sad. I thought the pinky purple looked really good with the skin tone and the roses, but just with the dress color it didn't match. So I painted over it, and I really hated it at first, but once I added like the background and stuff, I think it ended up looking okay. Okay, I'm a liar. I'm talking about the background first because I forgot that was also a whole thing. So the background, I ended up doing like a bunch of different colors blended together. And I actually ended up using the bright green that I got for Christmas that I didn't use for any other part of this painting. I just wanted to see what it looked like. And the bright green ended up being way too bright and it looked kind of crazy, so I had to like put some brown over it to kind of like mellow it down a little bit so that, I didn't want the background to be brighter than the rest of the painting. Like, it's the background, it's supposed to be in the back. And also for the background, I tried out this new technique that is really popular, but I've never tried this before, weirdly enough, where you put like salt on the wet watercolor and it kind of looks like a cool kind of thing. I don't know why I've never tried this before, but yeah, so I put salt on it. And honestly, this was kind of a pain, so I don't think I'd do this again. Like, it looked cool, but I feel like you can get like the same effect just by using like water. And the salt was kind of annoying because I think it made the paint like take longer to dry. And then also, because I am messy, I got salt everywhere and then I had to clean that. And then I had to get the salt like off the painting, which I didn't film because that was also a mess. But I had to like rub it off, basically what I'm doing with the masking fluid. And fun fact, I did the salt right before I did the masking fluid, so my hands actually ended up like hurting from just doing this for so long. And yeah, here's me struggling to get the masking fluid off. It did not want to come off. So yeah, I don't think I want to use masking fluid or salt again after this. Neither of them wanted to come off the paper and I made a mess both times. Honestly, one of the reasons I'm grateful that I like watercolor so much is they're like the least like messiest like paint medium. I feel like it's good that I didn't get into acrylic paint. So for my art goals, a lot of times I'll have like a yearly video talking about it and it'll just be like the voiceover for that video. But I couldn't really think of that many interesting ones, so I just wrote like a short list and I'll just put it in the voiceover of this video. They're not that interesting, but my main one is I really want to draw more and maybe draw like less at like 1 a.m. Lately, for some reason, my daily drawing time, I've been starting at like 11 p.m. for some reason. And it's not even like I can't do it any other time of the day. It's just like I've gotten into the habit of doing that and it'll be like 10 o'clock. And I'm like, no, I don't want to draw right now. I'll draw in an hour. 11 p.m. is my art time anyway. And like drawing at night is nice, but I'm like half asleep like most of the time when I'm drawing. I'm over here painting at 2 a.m. trying to keep my eyes open. So I feel like it'd be nice instead of drawing at 2 a.m. if I started drawing at 2 p.m., you know? Or like I remember there was a while like a couple years ago where I would draw like in the morning, like before I did stuff, and that was kind of nice. I'm not a morning person though, so I have like a really hard time doing that. But I think getting in the habit of drawing in the morning again would be nice. Also for the painting, I ended up outlining everything with like a dark blue and to add like a shadow, and also because there was a lot of paints going outside the lines. And I also had to paint over the stinking masking fluid areas with white paint. I forgot I had to do this. So basically using the masking fluid was completely useless. The whole point of using masking fluid is to like keep things from getting painted over, so you don't have to like use white paint. But I had to use white paint anyway to paint over it because the masking fluid ended up like not working. So yeah, that was fun. I used acrylic gouache so I could paint over it with watercolors. Also this year, this is like on my art goal list every single year, but I really want to work on drawing backgrounds. I always say that and then I do like 3 backgrounds a year. I'm gonna try for that one though. I've saved a lot of photos I've taken on my phone that I can paint, so hopefully I'll draw some backgrounds. I also want to try just painting like more different stuff in general, or drawing more different stuff. Like maybe some more like animals and like objects. I don't really draw those very often either. And then I want to use like more ink this year. Ink is one of my favorite mediums. Just like I love inking stuff. So I think I want to use maybe more like acrylic ink this year because I don't use my acrylic inks that often. And then my last one, I talked about this a little bit earlier in the voiceover, but I want to make my watercolors look more like light and flowy, basically. I did this one painting a couple of videos ago in the art vlog, in an art vlog where it was like this girl in the clouds. And I ended up doing too many layers on that one too. And I painted over it with acrylic gouache, like with a see-through like white. And so it made the colors look lighter again. And I think that helped. So I ended up getting the look that I wanted in the end. But I think I want to try getting like that look, but like without like cheating and using acrylic gouache. I mean, I probably still will end up doing that. But I think I want to try to go for that look more. And those are my art goals. I couldn't think of like that many. But yeah, I thought of a couple. Also, these roses, I was planning to make them be more light pink, but I think I like used the wrong color or something because I ended up being like way darker than I thought. So I think I kind of like messed up the paint colors, or maybe when I did that practice rose, I like added white to the mixture or something. So I forgot about that. I am kind of sad about the roses. The pink looked really pretty, and they're more of like a dark pink than I was hoping for. Okay, and this dagger, I like did not film me painting this at all, and that is because I saved it till last because I didn't know what colors to use, and then I ended up just looking at a reference photo. It doesn't really look like one specific reference photo though, because I couldn't really like find one, so I used like a couple reference photos, but mostly I kind of made it up. Especially for like the gold part that I don't know what that part is called. And it ended up needing a lot of highlights, and I think the highlights helped, but yeah, I ended up using a lot of gouache on the dagger. And I did forget to say this, but you'll know if you watch any of my painting videos, I'm using white gouache for the highlights. Earlier, I was using white acrylic gouache, and acrylic gouache you can't reactivate with water, but this gouache is like watercolors where you can reactivate it with water, which means for me, if I make a mistake adding the highlights, I can add water to it and just like get rid of it. So that's the main reason why I use it. And the last thing I'm doing is going over the dark blue shadow color that I used earlier. Um, I didn't want to like do another layer with the salt, but normally when I do background, especially lately, I'll do like a really dark background color so you can't like see my mistakes of like when I like go outside the lines. But the color didn't end up turning out as dark as I wanted it to. So that's the main reason why I did the shadow color, because there was a lot of mistakes, especially around the hair where colors were like bleeding out. So I used like a dark color to kind of like make the lines look more like sharp and cover up my mistakes basically. And I also think it ended up looking cool, so it worked out. And here is the finished painting. So here's the old one, and here is the new one. I think this one turned out a lot better. I still think I could have done better, but I'm not doing this a third time. And my friends said it looked pretty good, and that made me feel a little bit better, even though I still feel like I could have done a better job. And now I'm freeing it from the watercolor block. Also, as I do a lot, I forgot to film the part where I added some purple into it. I gotta always forget to film a couple important parts of the painting, right? Yeah, it is funny. I finished this a couple days ago and I hated it, so I thought I was gonna come back and add to it. But I kind of like it now, so, you know, I guess it grew on me a little bit. Also, I just said I was gonna stop drawing at like 2 a.m. and guess what time it is? Yeah, you know, New Year off to a great start. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope you also like how it turned out. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!